Trae Johnson and Will Riley did not make an NBA All-Rookie team, and it absolutely doesn't worry me in the slightest. All that and more today on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Alex R., and you're listening to Locked On Wizards.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you are part of our family. My name is Ben Strober, and I'm a credentialed media member covering the Washington Wizards alongside my good friend, the DC sports content creating savant, Abdullah Ayubi. On today's show, later in the program, we discuss a head coach that is no longer with his organization, whether Wizards fans would be interested in him or not. I want to get into what the roles of Trae Johnson and Will Riley might look like in the 2026 season. But first, we will start with the news that Trae Johnson, Will Riley, Jameer Watkins included as well. None of those guys made an NBA All-Rookie team. Abdullah, you look a little bit less sweaty than the last time I saw you when we ate those blazing wings. How did you feel today?
We are more than 24 hours removed from the Blazing Wing Challenge, and we dogged it, Ben. Doing that, I know we didn't do it in 5 minutes, which is the rules, but doing it in 10, eating all of them, cleaned up good. Not many people out there do the Blazing Wing Challenge, and we had the guts to do it, and we did it for number one. It was definitely fun, Ben. I'm hoping to do something like that again in the future. Maybe not like eat something extreme, but just do some activity where you and I are together where we can stream it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Maybe we can get a hoop session going and have listeners come out for that. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the stream, everybody that showed love after the fact. That was a lot of fun for us. Not as much fun that we didn't get to see any of our guys on the NBA All-Rookie team. I will give you the list of the players that we got on each respective team. First team, Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, VJ Edgecombe, Dylan Harper, and Cedric Coward. Second team, Ace Bailey, Jeremiah Fears, Colin Murray-Boyles, Maxine Raynaud, and Derek Queen round out the list. Trae Johnson and Will Riley not making an NBA All-Rookie team, although can be disappointing if you're a Wizards fan. There's nothing to worry about, and this means nothing for their career outlook. Trae Johnson receives 19 second-team votes. Will Riley received 4. I'd say this is simply a byproduct of them not being able to play enough this year. Obviously, Johnson battling the injury throughout most of the second half of the season, in and out of the lineup. Riley didn't play a whole lot until the second half of the season. After the All-Star break, he averaged 15 points per game and looked like one of the nice key pieces for this Wizards team going forward, but simply not enough. So, AB, I don't think either of these two were snubbed. I don't think they necessarily deserve to be in the top 10 of this list, but that's not me saying I don't think they're going to be pivotal pieces for this Wizards team going forward.
Yeah, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly, Trae Johnson averaged 12.2 points per game on 35.8% from behind the arc across 60 games. And Will Riley came on towards the end of the season, averaging 10.3 points per game on 43.9 field goal percentage. Yeah, I expected it. It's insane. The first team for those 5 guys were top 4 picks, Ben, and Cedric Coward. Honestly, I thought Queen would have made, but again, you can pick your between the two. It's just, it's somewhat, I don't know if the collateral damage is the right word, but it was kind of expected, Ben. We weren't trying to win too many games. I mean, who knows if you played Trae Johnson more games, or if there were some games where Will Riley wasn't getting any playing time, and you and I were scratching our heads, but we kind of understood the main mission at hand. And I wish we could see Will Riley's stats, Ben, post All-Star break compared to the young guys, because that's when he really took off, and that's when we realized that we found a gem late in the first round after trading away Walter Clayton. And a lot of people were upset about that. I'll keep bringing that up. I think Will Riley's going to be a solid piece. And again, Trae Johnson, when Trae Young was out there playing healthy alongside him, he looks really good. And I think these two will play key roles next season.
Absolutely. Riley, I believe, was second in scoring after the All-Star break in just total points, which is one indicative of the minutes he was playing. He was playing very heavy minutes for this Wizards team in the second half of the season, but that was the perfect time to do so. Obviously, you had a ton of injury, a ton of attrition. Guys are in and out of the lineup constantly. Riley became one of the guys that was just a mainstay in the lineup for the Wizards going forward. And outside of those Pacer games where we know they were trying really, really hard to lose, where Riley only played 16 combined minutes in those two of those games, that was crazy. But when I look at the list and you look at the top 10 guys that made the All-NBA rookie teams, they simply just played more basketball than these guys, and some of them did contribute to teams that were obviously having much more success. And I know Fears isn't really qualified in that because the Pelicans were really bad this year. But Fears did play in all 82 games. He was one of 2 rookies to do so this year. Keon James also played in 82 for Charlotte. He didn't make the list. Derek Queen played in 81. He cracked the second team. I think Queen kind of had a polarizing year. It started off really strong, and I think he got a lot of knocks against him on his defense. But I don't really have any issues with the list. Knipple, obviously, unanimous choice for the first team. Him and Cooper Flagg both unanimous in their selection for the first team. Con was really contributing as a rookie to a team that ended up making the postseason. Now, they didn't make the full playoffs, but they made the play-in behind a really, really good season from Con, where he had 18.5 points per game and shot 42.5% from 3. One of the best three-point rookie seasons that we have seen in a long time. In terms of the other guys that you saw on this list as well, even on the second team, like Maxine Raynaud, he ended up playing in 74 games this year. Ace Bailey played in 72, where he averaged 13.8. So I don't have any issues with this list, is the bottom line. But I want to go back to some of the points I wanted to make here on Trae Johnson, first of all, just because former number 6 overall pick, I think a lot of us had pretty high hopes for him in his rookie season, and a little bit underwhelming because of the injury stuff, obviously. So this isn't really a knock on him, and you expect next year to look a lot different. Johnson didn't play in a fourth quarter since returning from that injury that he had back in January. I think if Ryan Rollins didn't step on his foot back on January 29th on John Wall night, he definitely makes the second team of this list, because he was playing some really good basketball for a solid 2-month stretch after he had the hip flexor thing that flared up back in November. When he came back in December, 50, 40, 90 splits for Johnson. He looked confident with the basketball in his hands. He was shooting it really well from the outside. We knew he possesses an elite skill in shooting from the outside, which is pretty rare for a rookie player to do one thing really elite on the floor. And we saw the flashes of that with Johnson. I think back to the 26-point game he had in Charlotte before the blizzard. I think back to the Phoenix game where he scored, I think, 20 in the first half, made his first 5 shots from downtown. That's the type of player he can be. We saw the flashes of that, which is why it doesn't worry me in the least that, just because he was in and out of the lineup so much in the second half of the season after the ankle injury, that's why he's not on this list today. I still have a lot of belief in Johnson doing some really important things for this team next year and beyond that.
He was a big part of that game when KeShaun went off against Dallas early on in the year. He was back in his home state of Texas, and, man, he's a sniper from behind the arc, man. I think he has the potential to be one of the best three-point shooters in the league, alongside Knipple, Steph Curry, and everyone that basically shoots the three-point ball. His ability and what he did at Texas is a big reason why the Wizards took him with a 6 overall pick. And maybe you can make an argument that his rookie year was a little underwhelming, but you have to add context to it. There were some games where he wasn't playing, and then we found out about the hip injury he was dealing with since his Texas days. And on top of that, I'll just keep saying it, man. We just weren't going to try to win too many games, and Trae Johnson's three-point shots are definitely going to help you win games. And I think next year it's a sigh of relief knowing that you don't have to limit his playing time, because hopefully he's going to be healthy, and you don't have to lose. You don't have to. There's no top 8 protection pick. You're going to go out there and win games.
Yeah. And, some of the teams that were not as good on this list and didn't win a lot of games, you had some of the guys that contributed, but we know the Wizards, they're a team that won 17 games, so it's hard to stand out on a team like that unless you're the only one standing out. I think we had different spurts of the season for Washington where different guys would stand out. The end of the year was Will Riley. He looked really, really strong in the last month and a half of the season, but a lot of people, including the voters, I'm sure in this instance, don't give a lot of credit to Riley for playing that well at the latter part of the season, because a lot of people don't value what March basketball looks like. I think I saw things that I can really value from the minutes that Riley played in March, and him continuing to better himself as a ball handler. He got more confident, got more crafty, showed more of an ability to get touches in the paint, to absorb contact despite his slight frame. Just some of the stuff with the jumper, I think, is going to be the bottom line that he needs to work on in the offseason. Johnson needs to get a little bit better on the basketball, trying to create for himself a little bit. He had his moments where he showed that he could get to his spots, but got to see him do it on a little bit more of a consistent basis. It's going to be interesting to see what the rotations look like, where these guys fit in the rotation next year, because I think both of them will at the end of the day. It's just, it sucks because you had 2 guys on the second team last year in Sar and Bub Carrington. But this year, just a different story. But this is a really good class that we just had this past season. Really good group of rookies.
And also the second-round pick out of Florida State, Jameer Watkins, he showed some flashes. This is looking ahead, Ben, but do you expect Will Riley and Trae Johnson to play in Summer League this upcoming year?
I would think so, because it's typically been the formula for these guys since Winger and Dawkins took over, where these guys would play at least multiple seasons in the Summer League, if not a third. They probably won't play a third. I don't think you'll see Sar out there. I don't think you'll see Bub play in the Summer League, but Trae Johnson, Will Riley, Jameer Watkins, you'd expect him to play in the Summer League alongside whoever your top pick is, which I think is meaningful when you see those type of minutes, because I expect Johnson to be a heavy feature in the rotation if he's not starting. I expect Will Riley to be a heavy feature in the rotation next season. So with that being said, you want your top pick on the floor who likely is starting for you day one. You'd have to imagine, especially if it's AJ, that those guys are going to see the floor together. So build a little bit of rapport, build a little bit of chemistry, and continue to give those guys an opportunity to play, because they didn't get to play in enough games this year, I don't think.
I definitely want to see Trae Johnson in a three-point competition in the All-Star game soon, or All-Star break, because I just think his potential as a shooter, Ben, and we saw it this past year, the kid can hit it from anywhere on the floor.
Absolutely. What will the roles look like for Trae Johnson and Will Riley? We'll tell you that when we come back here on Locked On Wizards. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, the inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. The playoffs are here, and it's the most electric time in basketball. And on Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, the championship, whatever it may be, you can trade it with Kalshi. Game number 2, San Antonio and OKC going on as we speak. Trading currently right now, OKC probability sitting at 67%, meaning an $100 trade would pay out $148 if they win the game. As the playoffs heat up, these numbers move in real time. You can buy in or out at any time. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and the probability changes. You can buy in or out of your position at any time. So for a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see Kalshi.com/regulatory. AB, you put a pretty good short out on our channel the other day debating who starts at the 2 for this team next year, and I think there's a lot of really good options. And as it stands right now, just based on positionally what makes the most sense for the Wizards, I think a lot of people would argue that Trae Johnson should be that guy. I know there's also a lot of people that say George could be a guy that slots in at the 2, and I guess a lot of this is dependent on who the Wizards draft. I think you and I both pretty strongly believe that AJ would be the guy they draft number 1 overall, but if something different happens, we'd have to go through different scenarios in that case. But if AJ is the guy at first overall, then you kind of have this situation here where he probably slots in as the 3. It makes the most sense that he'd be starting on your team. AD at the 4, Sar at the 5, Trae obviously playing the 1, and I mean Trae Young. So the one open spot on the floor at that point would be the 2 guard. And you have a lot of guys that seem like they are deserving for the spot. Like, could Will Riley fit in as a 2 guard? I don't know if he's quite the build for that. Like, I think he's a bit too tall, not quite fast enough for it. He's quick, but I don't know if he's fast enough. Johnson seems like he makes a lot of sense to slot in as a 2 guard. Could be a really good space the floor for you, especially playing alongside Trae Young. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what the role for Johnson looks like next year. Do you think he starts the 2 if AJ's the pick?
For me, Ben, I think because you have Trae Young starting at the 1, I think having both Traes starting would not be the best look defensively. Offensively, I know what they can offer.
Yeah,
So
that
that's
is the
why
thing.
I slide KeShaun the 2. But then there's the argument that KeShaun won't be able to keep up with quicker guards at the 2. And then people are claiming that Bilal has a case to start at the 2. So I don't know. It's going to be a tough question. And again, if the Wizards really love Darren Peterson and they go with him at 1, then he's your 2 guard. But
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's going to be AJ. I think I'm 99% sure that that's the pick. He's going to be starting at the 3. There's not even a question. AJ has to start. Will Riley definitely has, maybe could be that. Oh, Bub will be the 6th man. It's good, man. We actually have such a lot of young talent, Ben. It's a good problem to have where you have to figure out a way to distribute all
right.
the minutes for the young guys. But again, you see where I'm coming from. I think KeShaun, the versatility, I wouldn't mind him starting at the 2.
I totally get that. I just find it hard to believe that KeShaun doesn't start on the team, but the question is where. It really becomes an interesting issue, a good dilemma, if you will, because George, as I've said on this podcast, is the complete package because he's a willing defender, he's a competitive defender, and he does a lot offensively. He can put the ball on the floor, get to the basket, he can turn the corner for you, and use his ball handling ability to create space for himself, create space for others. He can play make relatively well for a guy his size. I feel like last year, all the opportunity he got with the ball in his hands early on, although like that's not going to be a long-term thing where you see him with a really high usage like he did in the early part of the season. But I think it could pay off for him long-term because now he knows that he has those capabilities. He can play in the role they feel is best. Bilal at the 2 is interesting because do you make that move purely out of a defensive thing here? Because you got Trae Young in your backcourt. He's not going to be great for you defensively. We understand that. Like you don't need to say too much about that. We understand why Trae Young is not going to be the best defender at the point guard position. If you need extra help on the perimeter, and Winger talked about this, how they could funnel things out for guys like Bilal and KeShaun on the wing to really back up Trae a little bit defensively. And then they also want to funnel things to the inside because you have 2 bona fide rim protectors there in Sarr and Anthony Davis. If they really do need more help on the perimeter defending, which I think is going to be part of it, we understand like this is an ever-changing game where people value perimeter play, shooting from the outside. If you're playing against Boston, they're going to shoot 55 threes a game. And how are you going to defend that? You need guys that can really defend for you on the perimeter. And Trae Johnson has length to his game. He's nearly 6'6" and has a decent wingspan, but we didn't see a lot of the defensive stuff in his rookie season. Maybe the injury stuff was part of that. So I wouldn't close the book on him ever being a average at best defender. Right now, he's obviously a little bit below average, but maybe that's why you would see them go with Bilal, saying hey, we need him out there for the defense. But just because Bilal would start in a certain situation, like the starting lineup, I don't think is going to be indicative of what the closing lineup will look like for the Wizards next year. If you get in a situation where they really need offense late in the game, then maybe Bilal's not in there, and you'd have KeShaun just come in and be that guy. Trae Johnson would come in and be the guy if they need a 3 off the bench. Or they could go with a super defensive heavy lineup at the end of the game where you have Bilal and KeShaun out there at the same time. Even Champagny would find himself in the mix for this. It's a really deep bench group right now. It's not going to be easy for a lot of these guys to get minutes, including Will Riley, despite him having a really good final third quarter of the season here. He'll have to prove himself that he can find his way into the rotation. I think he will. It's just a matter of where does he slot in? Is he gonna handle the basketball for this team? Is he gonna slot in behind the 3? Can he play at the 2? It's really interesting.
Is there a possibility, Ben, where 1 or 2 young guys get traded this offseason for draft capital? I mean, is that crazy?
So I think if anyone were going to get traded from the Wizards right now, I think Jaden Hardy's the easiest choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was honestly pretty good.
Microwave scorer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a microwave scorer. He can come off the bench. I think a lot of people are interested in seeing if that would continue next year. I think just with the trade exemption that they have right now, they actually got from the Kelly Olynyk trade, it makes sense that somebody does get traded at this point in the offseason. I think in order to make space in the roster, I think somebody would have to as well, also depending if they do anything in free agency. Hardy seems kind of like an easy candidate just because he was kind of thrown into that Anthony Davis trade, and I don't know how much allegiance this front office will have to him. Whether it comes to another one of these young guys, whether it's a guy like Justin Champagny, I hope he's not traded. Is Cam Whitmore going to be able to find his way into the rotation next year? That's going to be interesting to see because Whitmore obviously has talent, but didn't get to see him for most of the year last year because of the deep vein thrombosis, which was really tragic for the guy. But I don't know what the front office is going to see in him long term here.
Yeah, man, this is insane how not too long ago we were talking about the lack of young talent on this roster, but now that you have too much, it's like these are the type of problems that a lot of teams in the NBA would die to swap with. And on top of that, Ben, you have I mean, you have 2 second-round picks coming up, Ben. Like, are we going to use both of them, or are we going to trade them? Is there a possibility where we trade back into the first round this year because the talent is very deep? We just don't know, but it's going to be hard for me to believe that Bilal should start over KeShaun, Ben, because as much as I love Bilal and what he offers defensively, KeShaun's versatility is just very unique.
It's a good point. Oh.
You
It's
good,
a
Ben?
good point. Sorry, my mic literally went unmute for some reason.
No,
It's a good point. But like in terms of versatility, a lot of these things that we see from this Wizards team pertain to what they do defensively on any given night. And Bilal was interesting with his offensive game because he came on very strong at the end of the season. He finally got to play at the end of the season, which I think was really important for him because he missed out on that through the first 2 years of his career. And I asked him about that. I said, how beneficial has it been for you to actually play in these games here down the stretch? And he was like, I think it's super important. Like, I felt my confidence has gone up a little bit. 3-point shot got a little bit better for him. Obviously, the 3-point shot was really bad for Bilal in the first half of the season. I think he was under 30%. But as he continued to grow it and get a little bit more comfortable, get back in rhythm, saw some of that improve. It's definitely going to be like another prove-it year for Bilal in terms of what he does offensively, but there's a chance that he gets the contract extension before that even happens.
Expect big things from Bilal. I think offensively, if he can give you 10 to 15 points per game, that's fine. Again, in today's NBA, not everyone's going to be a superstar. Not everyone's going to be an all-star. But if you're a quality player that can come off the bench, play really good defense, we expect that from Bilal. We want you to go out there and guard the team's best offensive player, give this team a chance, and let's make the plan, the bare minimum.
I am with you on that. All right, a certain head coach is no longer part of his respective organization, and now Wizards fans are already talking about it. Tell you who that is when we come back. Missed calls and slow follow-ups are silent killers for business. That's how money gets left on the table without people even realizing it. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the business communication system that is built so that you never miss a call. Quo helps manage businesses' every conversation get organized by letting your entire team manage the calls and texts from one shared number. No more dropped messages, missed opportunities, or disconnected communication. It's designed for how modern businesses actually operate. The part that I love, everything lives in one clean thread. Calls, texts, voicemails. The whole team sees the conversation so nothing falls through the cracks. And the AI summary saves serious time by logging calls and highlighting the next steps automatically. It just makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Money is on the line. Always say hello with Quo. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNBA.
You ever watch a game and think, man, those fans are probably going crazy right now? On Reddit, you're plugged into millions of fans who are just as hopeful, dramatic, analytical, and loyal as you are. Reddit is the app for authentic conversations about anything and everything. I covered the Dallas Mavericks, and as soon as Cooper Flag hard launched with his girlfriend, I went straight to the Mavericks subreddit because I had to see exactly what Mavs fans are thinking and saying about that. I also need to go anytime a call goes against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Go to the Thunder subreddit. You got to see what they're complaining about. Go check it out for any time a team gets kicked out of the playoffs or advances in the playoffs. It's incredible to have a real-time reaction from all these fans from all over the place. It's like the ultimate second screen. You're checking reactions, catching up on news, or just seeing how everyone feels about the things in the moment. And there's certain stories that are only going to be on the NBA subreddit because they're just niche and specific enough that only certain people care about it, and that's probably you. Reddit is where the real fans hang out. Download the Reddit app and dive into your favorite team or the Dallas Mavericks for hot takes, fresh memes, and a group chat that literally never sleeps. Download the Reddit app today.
All right, let's get into Jason Kidd. He and the Dallas Mavericks agreed to mutually part ways. 5 years he spent with the Dallas Mavericks, won 52 games back in 2021, won another 50 back in 2024. Obviously, that team went on to the NBA Finals and ended up losing to the Boston Celtics, and then everything fell apart because of a really bad trade made by Nico Harrison. The front office obviously is blown out there early in the season. and the Dumont family. They then bring in Masai Ujiri, who becomes the new president of basketball operations, Mike Schmidt, the new general manager for the Dallas Mavericks, and they made the decision that they're going to move on from Kidd because they want to handpick who their next head coach will be. And
I was shocked.
It's interesting. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at all. Like, I feel like he's had a track record, Ujiri, when he was in Toronto, where he kind of wanted to pick who his head coach would be. I think that's kind of just how it goes when a new front office takes over. It is interesting because the timing of it, like, it's a little bit late, I guess.
That's the big thing, man. I figured that if they would have done it, would have been done a while ago. But hey, Masai Ujiri showing his power.
Right. And that's why the Wizards are not going to pivot here laterally and make Jason Kidd their head coach. I've seen people talk about that. One, are we seriously going to do this? Every single head coach that gets fired or no longer has his job, we're going to say, like, let's hire him now. I understand why people are ready to move off Brian Keefe. Like, trust me, I get it. There's arguments on both sides, and I can hear people out on the argument saying that Keefe shouldn't have been brought back. I personally believe that they didn't do a lot of things in a team concept this past season, so I'm willing to give Brian Keefe a chance without the handcuffs on him to see what he can do as a head coach, have a little bit of the continuity there. But are we seriously going to do this bit every time a head coach gets... Why are we so eager to hire somebody that just was removed from their job, essentially? And I know this was a mutual parting ways, technically, but I mean, obviously Dallas wanted to go in another direction. I don't know if Kidd was necessarily interested in leaving on his own.
Mike Malone was the guy before Jason Kidd, and then he gets hired by UNC. How long do you think it'll take, Ben, for Kidd to land a new role? Do you see it anytime soon?
I mean, are there any other openings? So the Pelicans just filled their vacancy with Jamal Mosley, who was fired a week ago.
That was
so. It's more common in basketball, I guess, where retread coaches appear to be hired, because I feel like head coaches just kind of have a short window of time that they're able to be successful. And obviously, like, Bickerstaff with Detroit was kind of in the situation where Cleveland fired him, and then Detroit was able to swoop him up, and he became like the perfect guy for them moving forward. So I'm not saying hiring a retread coach is the worst thing in the world, but I would just personally be a little bit more interested for what the Wizards are doing right now. If you're going to make the move at head coach, whether it's halfway into the year next year or after the offseason, if things don't go well with Keefe, or if Keefe is fired early because, God forbid, things are going poorly next season, I would rather just go for a young and up-and-coming guy. I don't know if I want to go in the retread business. I think I'm kind of comfortable with them not hiring a lot of these guys in this coaching cycle. It hasn't been a great coaching cycle.
So I was reviewing some of the comments today when I put out that short about Jason Kidd getting fired, and a name that a lot of Wizards fans are intrigued by, Ben, is Sam Cassell. I've seen one person bring up Taylor Jenkins. A lot of people are still willing to give Brian Keefe one more year. I'm giving him up to the All-Star break, Ben. If it's 10 to 15 games below 500 and there's a lack of lineups, or the young guys are not, it just seems like it's not a meritocracy, then I think you pull the plug and fire him. But I'm still willing to give him a shot. But your thoughts on Sam Cassell or Taylor Jenkins?
So Cassell is a very interesting and easy connection for Wizards fans because he was an assistant for 5 years, 2009, to 2014, widely credited for his instrumental role in developing John Wall and Bradley Beal, who both became all-star guards for this team. So after he left the Wizards in 2014, he joined Doc Rivers' staff with the Los Angeles Clippers. He remained highly respected for his player development capabilities. And back in 2021, he was brought in for a formal interview to become the head coach of this team. And the team ended up hiring Wes Unseld Jr., which turned out to be a pretty bad decision. And now obviously things have completely changed because a new front office came in, and quickly on in the first season of the Dawkins and Winger regime, they kind of phased out Unseld Jr. Like, they just kind of demoted him into some other advisor role, and then he just wasn't with the organization anymore. And apparently Wes Unseld Jr. is actually, I think he's going to get an interview for the Bulls head coaching vacancy. I think that's what I saw. That's another team I think is still without a head coach. Let me double check on that. I'm pretty sure they're still searching for a head coach right now.
But it's just so funny, Ben, when a head coach candidate is let go. I swear Wizards fans are the first one to say, hey, bring him to Washington.
I think that's how a lot of teams feel, honestly. Jerry Stackhouse is a head coaching candidate, apparently, just emerged for the Chicago Bulls. So they're still trying to fill that vacancy. This wasn't a great year to move on from the head coach. And I think obviously where the Wizards are in their rebuild right now, the deconstruction phase they say is completed. Next year, it's your time to show what you've been losing all these games for. It's time to take the next step. So if Keefe can't be the guy that does that, then I think eventually you do move on. But as I've said, I'm comfortable with where they are right now at the head coach. I don't need to bring in a retread in Jason Kidd. First of all, who's lost more basketball games than he's won in his head coaching career. Like, that's another thing.
I was going to say, Ben, the Washington Wizards could be a hot destination if coaches are looking at AJ DeBonza and saying, hey, it's a young squad. They just got AJ. I think I can teach him. But we'll just see. I still want Keefe to be that guy. And again, last year and the past 3 years, I know it's been tough. His record is not the greatest of records, but he played in the development of Alex Sarr, KeShaun George. Look at Will Riley post All-Star break. As much as people want to blame Keefe for how this team has been doing the past few years, you have to also look at the positives.
I agree. And the one thing that I guess kind of bothers me in a way, I don't really care that much at the end of the day because everybody's got a different opinion on it. For the crowd that really dislikes Brian Keefe, like I said, I understand some of the reasons, but if you're a fan that wanted this team to lose a lot of basketball games so they'd have the best chance of picking first overall and really deconstructing this thing the way they have, why are you mad at the head coach for accomplishing the mission? A lot of people are saying like Keefe has shown that he loses too much or he's lost too many games. And I understand the argument of saying it's going to be harder for them to flip the switch because he's been the voice. But then there's people that say like a lot of the games they've lost, Keefe has been the sole reason, and they're angry at him about it. I'm like, well, you wanted them to lose, right? So why?
It's the hardest job in the world, Ben. What Brian Keefe had to do.
It's a really hard job. They have to figure out all these rotations. One, the front office is basically micromanaging everything he's doing as the head coach for the rotation, or rotation wise, and what they want to see from certain players. So this year will be a tell-all year for Brian Keefe, and it seems like that's the plan. That's what they've said as such, and even in interviews with Michael Winger last week on the Ryan Russillo show, mentioned Brian Keefe by name and certain things they're looking to do. So, like, it doesn't seem like they have any plans on moving on before the season. Like, that'd be weird timing to do it right now before you pick first overall.
And honestly, I feel like the young guys wouldn't be too happy about it, Ben. I think they would be in the mindset of, hey, this guy was coaching us during the years where we weren't winning too many games, but now that we had developed the team chemistry, we know how to go out there and play team ball. To me, it would be a disservice to the young guys and just bring in a guy and say, hey, go plug and play, coach this young squad. I don't know. And again, I know we're going to get, obviously people are going to come and say, hey, why do you guys love Brian Keefe, blah, blah, blah. But you just have to look at the plate that he was dealt with. And now that there's no more dark cloud over you that you have to tank, essentially, I think he's going to do a good job. Remember, this is the same guy that Kevin Durant credited his success to in his career. The same guy who's developed a lot of key players in NBA history. Just give it one more year. Not even. I won't say one more year. Give him the All-Star break. If it's still bad, then I was wrong.
Yeah. If it turns out to be a terrible take of him bringing him back and they're so bad and he's the reason why, then I'll be ready to eat a lot of crow on that. But for anyone that comments, you love Brian Keefe. I don't know if I love Brian Keefe. I really don't know much about the guy. Nobody really knows much about this guy.
He barely shares anything.
As a head coach, nobody really knows about this guy. He seems nice, I guess. Like, I've had positive interactions with him. I can tell you that, but I don't know anything about his personal life. I don't know anything about him as a head coach, really. I just know what his record is right now, and his record is very bad, but there's a very specific reason why the record is bad. That's about what I know about Brian Keefe at this point.
I think Brian Keefe was definitely the happiest when he saw the Wizards got the #1 overall pick.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, this is what's gonna keep me here." That was funny. They showed him right away. I'm like, yeah, these ESPN producers, they knew what they were doing by showing that. All right, a lot of fun in this episode of Locked On. We've just got a couple more to go for you this week, of course. Trying to lead you up to the NBA draft, 33 days away at this point. It's exciting. There's a lot of smoke screens everywhere, but we're going to try to keep you informed the best we can here on the Locked On Wizards podcast. Of course, be sure to check out the Locked On Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonwizards.supercast.com. You can learn more about ad-free episodes of Locked On Wizards or the members-only Discord chat. And yeah, we got a lot of fun things planned in the future. Maybe we'll get that hoop session going, live show in the works as well. A lot of fun coming up here on the Locked On Wizards podcast over the next couple weeks or so. That is Abdullah Ayubi. I'm Ben Strober. We'll talk to you later.